The Big E Sports Show.
Yeah, we got it going on,
The fastest hour in sports entertainment. We don't just talk about the headlines. We bring you some of the most engaging and colorful guests each and every episode for your listening pleasure. Now, without further ado, here's your host, Elissa Walker-Campbell.
Hey, Elissa Walker-Campbell, I want to welcome you back to the Big E Sports Show. And last week on the PGA Tour, we witnessed one of the most emotional moments in professional golf in recent memory. At Memorial Park here in Houston, Gary Woodland returned to the winner's circle in extraordinary fashion, capturing the Houston Open nearly 2.5 years after undergoing brain surgery to remove a lesion that had caused serious health concerns and uncertainty about his future with the game of golf. Woodland closed with that brilliant final round 67 and sealed the victory. To help us break it all down, we want to get his takeaways from Woodland's inspiring victory. And we also want to preview the Valero Texas Open that is underway right now in San Antonio. We always love to welcome in former PGA professional, author, and renowned instructor. That is the great Larry Miller. Happy Easter weekend, Larry.
Great. Same to everybody out there, too. The weather's good. Hope you get out and play a little golf in between all of the Easter festivities with the family. Everybody have a great time. But speaking of Gary Woodland, you're right. What an inspiring story. It's a testament really to the human ability to persevere, and to persist through adversity. I mean, this guy not only was unsure of his golfing future, but he was unsure of his future, period. I mean, you start talking about brain surgery and that's a whole nother level of concern and worry. And so for him to be able to go through that and come out, not just to play again, but to win on the PGA Tour, it's pretty amazing. And the interview with him afterwards was, as you said, it was very emotional. Anyone connected to the game that watched that had to really feel it and feel good for him. And, Gary Woodland, as you know, was a very good athlete, very good basketball player.
Yeah.
And strong as a bull. I mean, you can look at the guy and just see, that he's built for power. But the precision that he showed on the greens and with the short game, along with his ability to hit the ball really long and accurately, I think led to that victory. It was, everybody knows about his firepower and his power off the tee, but his short game was really on spot on that week. And so I think that's what really led him to victory, along with his strong will. And as I said, a testament to perseverance and to willpower, really. And that guy, I think he just willed himself, back into the limelight.
Larry, for you personally, I mean, what did that moment mean on the 18th green for someone like yourself that spent a lifetime around the game of golf?
Well, it meant a lot to me personally because I had back surgery 6 years ago. Knock on wood, I had a career that was very, very injury-free my entire career. And then all of a sudden, I had a serious back issue, and I wondered if I'd ever touch a golf club again, literally, much less play. And I had an incredible surgeon that miraculously fixed my problem. And, as you know, I'm back playing and playing really probably better than I ever did, thanks to that incredible surgeon. So anyway, it did touch me personally because I know the kind of thoughts that went through his mind, the same ones that went through mine about whether, am I ever going to play this game that I love so much again? And I was, I've got to admit, I was a little choked up watching him because, boy, it was true emotion coming out.
Larry Miller is a life member of the PGA of America, former PGA Tour player, author of 4 books on golf and performance. We are celebrating the win by Gary Woodland. And you kind of touched on it a little bit in terms of Gary's putting. But from a technical standpoint, what part of his game looked the sharpest throughout those 4 rounds?
Well, I think his approach shots to the green, his accuracy with his irons and the placement of his iron shots. In the strokes gained method and book that Mark Brody wrote and founded the strokes gained deal that the tour uses for statistics, they determined, contrary to popular belief, they determined that approach shots to the green were the most important shots statistically for performance. Surprising, really, because a lot of people would say the putter, But and of course, the putting does come into it. But you can't have chances to make a lot of putts unless your approach shots give you those chances. And I think his game, the power off the tee is a given with him. He's just very long. But his approach shots set him up to be able to make those birdie putts. And so that's, to me, what really shone through last week with that win, was that his iron game was really on, spot on.
Well, and Memorial Park certainly can be a demanding test. I thought what was impressive is just looking at the leaderboard every day. I mean, Woodland was able to build a sizable lead heading into Sunday. And so let's talk about just managing your emotions. I mean, how difficult, Larry, is it to mentally protect a lead while still playing aggressive golf?
Well, the threshold for me is 2 shots. If you've got a 1-shot lead or a 2-shot lead, it's very, very shaky, okay? And every shot you get over, you know that if you make a big mistake, your lead is gone. Now, for me, the 2 shots is a threshold. If you've got a 3 or 4 shot lead, it's a big mental boost, because you know with a 3 or 4 shot lead that you can make a big mistake and you've still got a lead.
Yeah.
And so what it does, it frees you up. It lets you play with more freedom when you have that much of a lead. Whereas with a small lead like that, you don't have as much freedom in your swing, and you're more cautious and more tentative, and that's when you make mistakes. And so he was able to separate himself enough to where, he stayed comfortable, and he was able to play with that freedom that you need to win.
Gary Woodland underwent brain surgery roughly 30 months ago. We've already talked about just how remarkable it is to see him win again on the PGA Tour. I mean, his last win was in 2019, but you touched on this, Larry, talking about your back surgery. And I just have to wonder, how hard is it for a player to regain confidence after such a long and emotional recovery process, and to think, I'm going to be back in that winner's circle. Will it ever happen again?
Yeah, well, it takes a little time because, first of all, you got the obvious rust, from not playing in so long. For me, it was 6 months where I could not play golf. I was not allowed to by the doctor. He let me start putting a little bit at 3 months, and then another month or so I could hit chip shots. But as far as taking a full swing, it was a full 6 months before I could do that. And so you come back and you've got all that rust. And then you wonder, gee, has my technique changed because of the surgery and the injury? Am I going to be able to swing the club the same way that I used to swing it? And you got all these doubts. And so it ends up where I can tell you what I experienced. It ends up where you get to the point, you get out there the first time that you're making full swings, and you just have to let it go. You have to say, okay, either this is going to work or else it's going to blow again. And the first time you tee up that driver, that's when you really wonder, because, you're going after that driver a little harder and with more effort. And so that's when you wonder, is it going to hold up? So you got that doubt. But I found that I was pretty amazed. I hate to use the cliche, it's like riding a bike. But it really is. If you've played golf for so long, your swing is not going to change. The timing and the tempo might change a little with the inactivity, but the basic moves, the mechanics, they're really not going to change. It's almost like a fingerprint. And so you have to trust that you know how to swing the club, and it's not going to go away. And then it's just a matter of regaining your timing and your tempo, and you do that through a little repetition. So it didn't take me long at all to really get back. And like I said, now, because I'm free of that worrying about my back and favoring the back, I don't have to do that anymore, and I'm probably swinging the club better than ever.
Larry, you're a life member of the PGA of America. I mean, how would you rank Gary Woodland's comeback among inspirational moments in professional golf? What do you think?
Well, I think I'd rank it right up there with Tiger coming back and winning the Masters like he did after all that adversity. I'd rank it up there in the comeback stories. I mean, there's a lot of comeback stories, but when you're talking brain surgery, that takes the cake as far as I'm concerned. And so that has to be way up there at the top.
Okay, well, that's a segue into our next topic and discussion, and that, of course, is Tiger Woods' major stories surrounding him as he is stepping away from golf to seek treatment following his recent arrest. So what was your reaction when you saw that unfortunate news?
In spite of the fact that Tiger has self-sabotaged quite a bit, I really feel sorry for the guy. I have a lot of sympathy for him because you have to know that every day he is dealing with severe pain. He's had 7 back surgeries. He's had multiple other surgeries on parts of his body. And you have to know that he's got constant pain all the time, and so he's got to take these painkillers just to function through the day. And realizing, like I said, that he brought a lot of it on himself, and he certainly should not be behind the wheel of a vehicle under the influence of those pills. But at the same time, what is he supposed to do about the pain? How do you live with that, with constant 24/7 pain? You have to do something. Having said that, I play golf with a bunch of doctors and at the club and spoke to them about this. And they said, at some point, you got to give up the painkillers, because if you keep taking them, the more you take them, you end up building up a tolerance, and they really don't even help that much. So you have to do other things, whether it's certain exercises or physical therapies, or just simply dealing with the pain and living with it and functioning with it. But you can't kill yourself taking pain pills all the time and then increasing it all the time. And then of course you certainly shouldn't be behind the wheel of a car. At the same time, I know that he, as I said, self-sabotaged, but also you got to feel a little bit sorry for this guy. How do you feel sorry for a billionaire who's the most famous person maybe in the world, and all the fame he has, but yet he's a human being at the same time. And for someone to be in constant pain all the time, you have to feel for him.
Well, and Larry, from a player's perspective, we talk about the physical pain, but just how difficult is it for Tiger, who has lived under this level of just global scrutiny for decades? And it's, for everyone to see on this stage, all of his personal struggles and transgressions and shortcomings.
It's the trappings of fame, that happens to most people who become that famous. I remember famously Elvis Presley saying one time that if you could have the house of your dreams and everything you ever wanted in that house, but if you were never allowed to leave that house, you'd find a way to kill yourself. Because it's not about that. It's not about the material things. It's about the human interaction. It's about the process of learning. And that's what we're here for, really, is to learn through this life and to get better, become better versions of ourselves by learning. And so I think the trappings of fame are difficult to deal with. And it's evidenced by a lot of these celebrities who end up self-destructing.
Larry, when you step back and you look at the full arc of Tiger Woods' career, just his dominance, the injuries, the comebacks, how would you define his legacy? How should the golf world ultimately view him?
I think for several years, Tiger Woods played the best golf that's ever been played in the history of the game. And I'm talking about around 2000, 2002, 2003. The longevity factor. See, Sam Snead won on the PGA Tour in 6 different decades. Okay, and you talk about longevity of the quality of play, and then Nicklaus also. But Tiger Woods, and because of the personal factors, and the injuries and whatever, the incidents, he's not going to have that longevity that Sam Snead or Jack Nicklaus had. But I will say that for that period of time, that no one ever played the game as well as he did.
Hey, we are winding down our time with former PGA pro Larry Miller. And of course, the Valero Texas Open in San Antonio is underway today. So what kind of test does TPC San Antonio present?
Well, it's going to be a great test. A bunch of elite players, go both ways. Some of the elite players want to play before and some do not. They want to prepare, privately or whatever. And you've got the McIlroy and Scheffler and Morikawa and Woodland are not playing this week. However, Tommy Fleetwood is playing, Russell Henley's playing, Jordan Spieth is playing. And so it's an opportunity and all 3 of those guys. Fleetwood is probably, in my mind, the big favorite this week. And I think Russell Henley, being a great ball striker, a great ball striker is someone that tee to green is very, very good. Russell Henley is that person. And then the intriguing part of this week to me is going to be Jordan Spieth. Without those 4 big names in the field, can Jordan break through and put 4 rounds together and win? I think it's going to be a very interesting tournament. And but I think Fleetwood, Henley, and Jordan Spieth are the ones to keep an eye out for.
Larry, good stuff. Tremendous insight as always. I hope you have a wonderful Easter holiday. And we certainly learned a lot and inspired by Gary Woodland. Just a reminder that the game of golf often reveals something much deeper than just competition, right?
Well said, Big E. Well said. And so everyone have a great Easter.
All right. We'll talk to you real soon. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, bye-bye.